Hey, this is Kent Phillips with Pure Solar on Empower Prep Unplugged podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about the differences between a microinverter and an inline inverter. So for when you are getting your future quotes or you have a past, solar system and you're stuck with, most likely an inline inverter, what are your options, for when you do need that inverter replaced? So one, we'll start out with, big differences between a microinverter and inline inverter. So your inline inverter, that's the inverter. You're going to see those usually on the side of your house, usually by your main service panel, right? You're going to have that connected to another inverter that'll be on the side of the house. Now that inverter is going to go, let's just use 20 panels, for example. Now, let's say you have 20 panels up on a roof or a ground mount, whatever the case may be, but that one inverter is going to go ahead and speak to those 20 panels. Now, let's just say that those 20 panels are split into two strings. So 10 panels are on one string and then 10 panels are on another string. Now, with the case of an inline inverter, let's just say that one of those panels, let's say these are 400 watt panels, for example. Now, one of these 400 watt panels just got shaded by a little piece of tree, maybe a vent pipe up on the roof, whatever the excuse is. Now, that one panel is now producing, let's say 200 watts out of 400 watts now. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to allow the rest of those panels on that string. So the other 9 panels are only going to produce whatever the lowest wattage panel is going to be producing, right? So that's taking all those other 400 watt panels and only producing 200 watts on that. And then it goes to the next string. So if that next string at least is still all panels are in the sun, that could still be producing 350, 370, watt per panel per se. Now, with a microinverter, if you had that instead of the inline inverter, a microinverter, let's say that same panel, you've got 10 panels on one string, still the same 20 panels up on the roof, but that one panel is only producing 200 watts. It's shaded by that vent pipe. Well, that next panel right next to it with the microinverter, that means they've each got their own inverter on the back of them. Oh. That panel is going to produce its max output no matter what. So that means this panel right next to it can produce 370. The panel next to that can produce 380. Whatever the case is, each panel is going to produce its max output per panel. Now, next thing is, if that inline inverter ever went out on the side of your house, well, one, that shuts down the whole system, right? So it doesn't matter if one panel's not work, that whole system's now shut down with that inline inverter. Yikes. Now, with the microinverter, let's say one of those inverters stopped working. Well, that means that one panel's the only one shut down. You still have those other 19 panels still producing. Another thing is you're going to be able to see the difference, whether it be on your app, but you're going to see, hey, this one panel's now not producing anything or it's shut down. What's going on? Be able to kind of, figure out exactly what's going on. When you're inline inverter, you'll just see everything zeroed out. Everything's going to be shut down, right? So one is, that nice panel-to-panel functionality with a microinverter, to where if one panel or one inverter ever did go out, the rest of the system can still produce working. Whereas if that inline inverter went out, you have to replace that with another inline inverter. Now, there are options for an inline inverter to get panel-to-panel functionality, and that's what they call optimizers, and they put that on the back of every panel. But then you're still having like said, if anything happened to that inverter, the optimizers and panels go down with it. And the longevity of usually your inline inverter is going to be around 10 to 15 years is my personal longest, inline inverter I've seen last is around 15 years. And then that's usually when they need them replaced. And most people, will get them replaced with a microinverter. Most warranties on an inline inverter about 10 to 12 years. 12 years is the highest one I've seen. Now on a microinverter, you're going to have a 25-year warranty. Obviously, longevity on that, microinverters we've seen last 40 years plus. So you're going to have a lot longer longevity on a microinverter itself compared to the inline inverter on itself.
The way this makes me think, because I know very little.
Yes.
Remember, sun, panel, lights. Come on.
Honestly, 90%.
I think of it. Have you ever seen National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation?
Yes.
So Clark's got all the lights up.
Yes.
He
Exactly.
turns on the lights, nothing comes on. He's like, "Come on, Russ. You checked every one of those 10,000 little twinkly lights, didn't you?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, Dad." But that's kind of what it makes me think of because
You're absolutely
nowadays
right. One of those, right? That string goes
it's
exactly
done.
same mentality to where if that bulb, imagine one of those Christmas
Mhm.
bulbs, each had its own inverter to where one of those bulbs went out, but allowed the rest of the
Yep. And
4,999
twinkly
bulbs,
lights.
to
Yep.
go ahead and power exactly the same philosophy as
Because
far as that
that's what they
goes.
do now. Now you can buy those upgraded lights. And if one light goes out, it's okay. The rest are going to work.
Exactly.
And you're not up there on a ladder. And here I am.
Trying
Come
to
on,
figure
Frank,
out
check
which
this
the
out.
one is.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh, no kidding. That would be in itself crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, and what I wanted to get to next on the microinverters is because most companies should be installing microinverters. Most companies nowadays, if you're getting a standard grid tied system, you should be getting a microinverter proposal. Your inline inverter proposal will save you some money. It'll be a cheaper proposal, but understand, you're getting a system that's going to
Hmm.
last half as long. With a microinverter. Now, there's so many different companies as far as microinverters, but the biggest name in microinverters is going to be called Enphase. So, the majority of anyone listening to this is either that has solar already or is looking to get solar and are talking about a grid tied system or probably looking at an Enphase microinverter. Now, one of the things that I find I need to talk about this because I'm so passionate about it is, you know, there's so many different micro or N-phase microinverters. There's an N-phase microinverter IQ8, IQ8 plus, IQ8M, IQ88, right? So there's all these different um, series of that one branded microinverter. But what most homeowners don't understand is that, if I got an IQ8, let's use this for an example, an IQ8 plus microinverter. That means, okay, the most that this microinverters will take from your 400-watt panel will be 290 watts, right? Whereas if I use a microinverter like an IQ8A, I can go ahead and get 360 watts from my panel, or an IQ8HC, I can get 390 watts from my panel. So that's something else I really, because so many people do just, sign on the dotted line, they
Hmm.
get X kW system. Well, that 10 kW system is now only a 7 kW system because the microinverter is so much smaller, not properly sized with the panel itself, to where you're not realistically getting what you're paid for. Yes, you have 10 kilowatts of solar on top, but what your microinverter is telling you your system's doing is only 7 kilowatts, right? So understanding that too, which that's, up to the solar professional to, because homeowners aren't going to know the differences between
You wouldn't
different
even know to
series.
ask, right?
Exactly. I still don't know how many different Tesla models there are. They all look the same to me, but I
Right.
think there's like 4 or 5. I don't even know, but
Now you've got the guy flipping the book. Do you want option A, B, or
yes,
C?
yes.
This many panels based on your electric bill. You're good to go.
Exactly. And that's one of the things I love to just walk the homeowner through to let them know their choices, right?
Mhm.
Let them know this is what your IQ8 plus, which 90% of companies utilize is this microinverter is going to do for you. It's going to take this system and do this for you. With this microinverter, I can get this much more power from you every day or every year, every month, right? So, and that's what it's going to come down to is making sure when you're getting that investment, you're with solar, you want to make the smartest investment. You don't want just something to get you by for the next 5 years, unless you are, don't care and you just want to get rid of the place, maybe make an extra
Mhm.
couple thousand from putting solar on it and flipping it, right? But
Right.
if you're looking at it for yourself, you want the equipment and the microinverter, everything sized properly, right? So you know exactly what you're getting. So
So what I loved is you guys were talking, I don't know if it was on this episode or another one. You were talking about, oh, in my experience, I've seen them last 15 years.
mhm.
How many people that come in and sit down at your kitchen table are going to be able to tell you, in my experience,
Yeah,
we've been around for this many years and
yeah.
they don't know.
They don't, and that you're absolutely right because you have 50 years in business.
You've seen it all.
We've seen it all. We've seen, I mean, companies can sit there and undersize a system, and they've got the signed contract. They've sized it, they're
Hmm.
set, to where there's no caring, after that. when we're sizing a system, we're sizing it to this specific, to where if it's not meeting exactly what you signed up
Mm-hmm.
for, that means it's on us, right? To where most companies, hey, this isn't on us. You signed up for this. This is what we said it was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
If we say this is what it's going to do, it's what it's going to do.
Well, and we're not going to be here 2 years from now anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So when you're looking at solar, and honestly, I thought they're going to look at my electric bill. They're going to tell me how many panels I need. I'm going to save a little bit of money.
Yep.
And if the lights go out, I'm good.
Way to do it, and that's how, a lot of companies make their money real quick. Is I can easily go home to home and say, you need this many panels. This is what, the only equipment we use. I could tell you this is the best of the best because I'm the sales professional. You're not, and not tell you your options because I don't care about your options, right? That's what most salesmen would think is I don't care about your options. I know I've got X, Y, Z to sell you. This is what I'm going to give you. Hopefully you like the price and sign it. Or that's, it's not about that here. It's literally about making sure you know what you're getting yourself into. It's not a scary thing at all. It's something that's going to save you money.
It's awesome.
But it is nice to understand what you're buying. Imagine buying a phone. I remember buying my new car, not knowing anything about it until like, a year later, and you start, oh, wait, I've got a secret compartment here. I've got a secret button. What the heck? And just understanding what you're actually, your big purchases are, makes a world of a difference.
It reminds me so much of insurance. You get your car insurance, you shop the cheapest rate, and it's great until something goes wrong and you're calling that 1-800 number and you're going, hey, hello, where's that little lizard I talked to or whatever.
Yeah.
Or you've got your agent's phone number on your cell phone and you're calling them going, hey, Steven, what's going on with my, he's got a crash. Am I covered?
Yeah.
It's that sort of thing. Imagine talking to Kent 15 years ago and knowing you can still call Kent today and he'll be like, dude, I got you.
Heck yeah.
I got you. I'll be right there.
And let them know. Exactly. And it is. It's a nice feeling to have, somebody in your back pocket that you can call just for advice and not worried about, shoot, I'm going to have to charge, I'm going to have to pay $200 just to learn something real quick,
Yeah.
Not at all. And that's, like I said, I know for a fact that's what sets us apart. There's no other company like Pure Solar and Electrical. As far as definitely in the solar industry, the majority of them just won't deal with what we deal with. We deal with the nitty gritty, the hardest stuff that you can think of, trenching down a mountain 500 feet to get from, panels to where a little off-grid cabin is per se. We do the things that, most companies won't. And we want the clients to know, hey, we're set. I made up my mind before this because I've learned a lot from them. And we walk them through since, from day one, since they own it to 12 years later, hey, I've got a problem. Oh, we'll be right out and fix it. And how nice that is for them to be able to call us. Because most of our calls, honestly, are from people that we've never even installed. Hey, I wanted this replaced. This company's no longer in business. Can you guys do this? Yes, we can, and that's just it's a nice part to be, it's a nice company to be a part of, to be able to literally help so many people. So,
well, and we're going to run into you on the street anyway. We're going to see you at the local store. We're going to see you at the farmer's market. You live here. You love it here. You've been here. So,
oh man, I'm right next to Mortimer's farm, and this week has been crazy.
Crazy, right?
I'm like, I forget. Every year, I've lived there for 15 years now, but every year I'm like, wow, this is getting busier and busier to where
the lights out there. I was driving in from I was driving in from Phoenix the other night, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Because I remember the old farm barns, the farm dance, barn dance that they had. They had those little lights, and then a week later, I'm like, oh man, this goes around the whole
You better go
thing.
call Charla and make sure she's got solar because she's running that many lights every year.
That's what I'm thinking, right?
Charla,
Shoot, huh?
give them a call. So, well, this has been interesting. I'm learning a lot, and even though I understand what you're saying in a point where I can, put it towards something I understand, like Christmas lights or whatever. What I'm learning most importantly is go with a company you can trust. Somebody who's going to be here. Somebody who's going to tell you the difference and the nitty gritty. Like, this is cheaper. You said you're only going to live in your house 5 years. You're going to sell it. You can get away with this.
Yeah.
Or you've said this is your lifelong family home and you plan on, giving it to your kids when you go or whatever.
Yeah,
there's a difference.
Give them a little nickel magnesium cobalt battery. Give them a lithium iron phosphate. Exactly.
Garage is gonna explode.
Exactly. You want the best for yourself. You always want better for your kids. That's just the way it is. And And yeah, I mean, when you're looking at making an investment like solar, because like I said, you're putting up, whether you're fine, of course you can, finance it 0 down and whatnot. But when you're making an investment like that, you want to make the right investment, the smart investment. And this isn't something you can go trade in, 4 years down the road or something. So
I changed my mind.
yeah, exactly. I changed my mind. I mean, it is something you can at least, hey, I want microinverters instead of this inline inverter. That's always nice, but those panels aren't going to come back and give you, $4,000 towards your next purchase. You know what I'm saying? So,
well, thank you so much. I thank you for letting me sit in on this because I'm learning a ton. So
I'm so
I appreciate
glad
it.
you did. I was wondering how I was going to talk to myself for this long. So thank you so much for joining me. It honestly made everything so much better.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, heck yeah. And thanks for joining us on Empower Prep Unplugged. And I will talk to you guys next time. Pure Solar and Electrical out.